Hi, 1 and 2-year-old leaders. We are preparing for July 7th in our summer series where we're looking at life after moving into the promised land for the Israelites. They have been there for many years now and are growing through a process of building kings within their structure. Their first king was Saul. God didn't like Saul. God didn't like Saul's leadership, and so he appointed another king. That king happened to be young when he was appointed, and so we pick up our story today, learning about David's relationship with Saul, which was very challenging for David. Saul realized after David defeated Goliath and became friends with his son Jonathan that people liked David, that he was a good leader, that he was doing good things. And so Saul became very, very jealous and tried many, many times to try to take David's life. And so David goes with people who were beginning to follow him. It's likely he had about 400 or so people, men who followed him, who joined David, and he became their leader. They were typically people who were desperate, in debt, or discontented, just like David was feeling. Are you beginning to see what we've been talking about the last few weeks, that God was preparing the Israelite people to see that Jesus was going to be the same kind of leader, that the Savior King that was coming was going to be all that the Israelites needed, but he needed them to use these opportunities of growing in kingship to see that Jesus was the perfect king. So while David is out in the wilderness trying to escape Saul, there is one day where Saul needs to go to the bathroom. And Saul happens to walk into the cave where David and some of his men were staying and hiding away from Saul. And during that interaction, David's able to get close to Saul, close enough that he's able to tear off a piece of his cloak and take it with him. And he did that and instructed his men not to hurt Saul, but he met Saul later on down the road and showed him, and he even honored him. His words are, "My Lord, the King." He showed Saul the corner of his robe, proof of David passing up an opportunity to hurt Saul. And Saul, I have to read this to you exactly because this is so amazing. David says to Saul, "I have done nothing against you. God might punish you, but I will never harm you. Let God decide who is right and who is wrong. May he protect me from you." David is looking at his enemy's eyes, the one who has tried to hurt him, take his life, really take his life, not just say mean, slanderous things about him, but totally take his life. David's looking in his eyes and he's saying, "Let God decide. I'm going to be a bigger person. I'm not going to hurt you. I promise you I'm not going to hurt you. I had a chance to hurt you, but we're going to let God decide who his person is, and he will protect me from you." And in that moment, Saul begins to cry, and he looks at David and he says, "You are a much more righteous man than I am, because you have done what is good to me, though I have done what is evil to you. Most people would kill an enemy, but you have let me go. May God reward you for your kindness." And Saul realized that God was with David, and he knew David would be king over Israel. Just from that small interaction, God is helping shape David's heart to be the leader after his own heart, so that later on down the road, he can make bigger decisions. if that's not a trustworthy God who is looking out for our every need, I don't know what other story is going to help us see that. So, what we're hoping kids see in this lesson is David's mercy, but not only David's mercy to Saul, that David's mercy to Saul helped point Saul to God, that's going to help prepare the way for Jesus. So, in your small group time today, you're going to get the chance to make a crown. Each kid is going to get a paper crown, and they can decorate it. You can get your crayons out if you'd like to color them. You also have some stickers in your bag that they can use to decorate their crown with. Sometimes we all need physical reminders to remind us of God's goodness. And I'm sure that for little kids, creating a crown to show God's kingship over Israel, over David, over Saul, I'm hoping that them seeing the physical reminder of a crown, that helps us all remember that God's kingship, God's lordship, God's perfect Savior King is what we need more than a paper crown. All right, and then your memory verse for the series is "No one is like you, Lord. You are great, and your name is mighty in power." Jeremiah 10:6. So your signs for this one is "No one is like you, Lord. You are great, and your name is mighty in power." If you'd like to create your own signs, feel free to do that. This is just a suggestion to try to help you engage kids in a different way. Maybe you're getting to the point where kids are beginning to remember these memory verses. And so maybe you want to stop saying the words and see if they can do the emotions without you saying the words. Or maybe you take turns and get each kid to do it a little at a time. Then you can pray with your kids. Since they have the crowns today, there's not a coloring page, but if you want a coloring page, there's always extra coloring pages in your rooms. They're usually generic coloring pages, but sometimes it's good to have something to fill some time. Help us pray for leaders to join our teams. Every team needs more people, and especially our greeters at the front doors, at all of the doors down the hallways, and at our check-in station. We definitely need people there. If you know someone who's ready to jump in and be a part of leading at Parkway Church, I'd love to meet them, help them get connected. If it's a spouse or someone in your family who's going to be there when you're there anyway, that would be a great way for them to get involved. We have spaces for people of all abilities, and let me tell you why. Because we are growing. In the middle of summer, we are growing. We are seeing about 40 more kids than we had before spring break come every weekend, which means every weekend at Parkway Victoria, we are between 280 and 290, on some lower weeks, maybe 240, but still a whole lot of kids between two services. And so we could use some extra hands doing everything all of the time. Most rooms have a primary teacher, so really that is just extra hands. It's not somebody who has to be a great Bible scholar unless you know of one of those people. We have some needs in some of the rooms. Many of our leaders right now are taking a break for health reasons, and so let's continue to let them have that break. I'm praying that many of them are able to return at some point. But if that doesn't happen, we want to be able to make sure that all of our little ones are taken care of in a safe, welcoming environment. Thank you for leading. Thank you, and enjoy your summertime. Happy 4th of July. I'll talk to you soon.